Hello, Slicey Dicers. This is Bryan with another knife review for you. Today we have the WE Zephyr. Very, very cool knife. This came out from WE late last year. It's still in there in one of their more swoopy-ish kind of designs that I usually don't particularly care for, but this one actually works for me quite well on a lot of levels. I am holding it mostly because the way this beautiful pocket clip is, it just doesn't like to sit on my desk very well. It wants to tilt back like that, so I'll have to hold it a little bit. But very cool knife. It comes in several different colors. It comes in this blue. It comes in a gray or a bronze, all still with the same carbon fiber inserts, all with the same M390 blade, but you can get all three in either this nice stonewash finish, or you can get it in a partially DLC coated blade. I much prefer the stonewash, but they don't charge you extra for the DLC, which is kind of nice. A lot of companies charge you extra for that. I noticed that about WE. They almost never charge extra for that. But it's a very, very pretty design. It's very artsy, but it's still a very useful design. Aesthetically, I would say, I think for some reason that blade just reminds me of a whale of some sort. I don't know. It just looks like the front quarter of a blue whale or something. It's a very tall, flat grind. It's very, very, it looks okay though. It's definitely a unique blade shape. It's still a very useful shape. They didn't go too overly stylish with it, but it is a very unique blade shape. Nicely sculpted handle. You have these really well done carbon fiber inserts, and quality wise, it's very, very good. It got rid another one of these knives. This is actually one of the first that we decided to forget the Torx screws. Star screws, and put actual genuine Torx screws in it. And they do make their own. Especially if you're getting the titanium one, they make their own titanium Torx screws, and they're very good. The lockup on them is excellent. Your Torx tool sits really deep down in them, and they're all T8s, so no little tiny T6s or anything. So can't complain there. I do really like it. This knife is very easy to take apart. I took it apart just to take a gander inside, but it's kind of what you'd expect. It's the ceramic, bearing, ceramic detent you'd expect from a WE. And it should be nice stuff inside because this is $300, $297.50. This is a very pricey knife for sure, but the quality is there to demand that. I mean, the action on it is just awesome. I'll get to that more in a minute. Very snappy, detent's good. All the lockup is pretty good on it. The lockup's a little light on this particular one, but I've seen ones that were more. But it does have it's a titanium frame with a steel lock bar insert. Blade centering's excellent. It's really good quality. The only quality thing I could complain about at all is the front of both of these carbon fiber inserts aren't really completely flush. They're close, but you can kind of feel them. You can't feel them hardly at all, if at all, around the back part, but just right up here in the front you can feel them a little bit. Minor little thing, but other than that, I think the fit and finish is well worth the $300. It's a very, very nicely done knife. Let's do some stats and size comparisons before I get too much farther into all this. I'm gonna have to hold this so I keep it level here. You have an overall length of 7.9 inches. You have a blade length of dead on 3.5 inches. You have a blade thickness of a pretty stout 0.16 inches. And you have a handle thickness of a fairly also stout 0.55 inches. Weight of dead on 4 ounces, which is not bad at all for a knife this size. Let's do some size comparisons before I forget. I always almost forget that. I don't know why. Compare it to this is a ZT0609. See, it's a little bit larger than that. Try to get my fingers out of the way as much as I can here. I'm just trying to hold this even so that you guys get a good impression of it. Oh, we'll compare it against WE's own Minotaur. A knife from WE that I very much love. Yeah, almost identical in almost every way from that. Almost feels like there should be a comparison video between those two, doesn't it? Doesn't it kind of feel that way? I kind of sense it coming. Another higher end Chinese titanium knife that we will be having a review of. I don't know what order I'm going to put these out in. I'm going to be out of the country for a while, so I'm kind of banking some reviews. So that is the Bestech Starfighter. Very similar knife in purpose and stuff, but this is quite a bit cheaper. This is like $200. And for consistency's sake, we will do the Spyderco Paramilitary 2. And last but not least, the Spyderco Delica 4. Obviously, it's quite a bit bigger than a Delica 4. Get that Starfighter out of there, sneaking in the perimeter. Trying to make a Star Wars reference there. I don't think I did it. All right, let's talk more about this knife specifically. The blade on this thing. As I said, it is a very visually interesting blade, unique blade, I guess. It's not super crazy, but that big shape on that, it does work well. I mean, it is pretty thin behind the edge. I measured it like 24 thousandths behind the edge, which is thin enough. It does have a very high flat grind, obviously, but this is a very thick stock steel. Came very sharp out of the box. I have no complaints about the sharpening on it. The sharpening is really good. The sharpening choil is pretty good. Maybe a bit of recurve there towards the end of the sharpening choil, but not bad. It would come off after a while. M390, great steel. It's a good slicer. It's not the best. It is thick, so it's not going to go through things like butter for a long time like some other knives will, but it's pretty darn good because it does have such a high flat grind. A very, very useful blade shape for sure. All belly. It is all belly. The belly of a whale. But enough to swallow Jonah. It's the first and probably last Bible reference you'll hear me make. But yeah, there is a bit of flat here towards the back. It's a pretty useful blade shape. It is a bit stylish, but it turns out that it is pretty useful. I can think of some more useful blade shapes, but it's not bad. It does have a very thick, robust tip, so it's going to be good for piercing stuff, absolutely. Yeah, the blade on it is pretty good. I'm a bit more excited about some of their newer offerings coming out, but I do still like the blade on this quite a bit. Ergonomically, it is excellent. It is a fairly thin handle, but it's a little thick, which I do like the thickness of it because it does fill your hand really well, surprisingly well. When I first took it out of the box, I didn't think this was going to fit well, but it does. It does have some cutouts for your fingers in there. They happen to fit me perfectly, so I'm fine with that. A little bit of a hot spot from the pocket clip, but nothing objectionable. Got some jimping up here that is more than ornamental, but it's still really not very serious. You can move up here. No forward finger choil, which I always like to see that, but ergonomically it's really good. The handle shape is outstanding. The only little qualm I have is just I can feel that clip a little bit. Not a big deal. It's a very small amount, and the jimping could be a bit. If you're going to put it there, make it work. Don't leave it like that. Now, next up, let's talk about the carry. It carries really well. In a lot of ways, the only way, I guess, it reminds me of this, but it reminds me kind of a Shaman, how it is a fairly good-sized knife, and especially that thick handle. You wouldn't expect it to carry very well, but it carries really well. At least for me and the pants that I'm wearing, which are usually Levi's 501s, it fits in there really, really well. The pocket clip is angled extremely well. The flipper tab is nothing to be objectionable and hit the stuff in your pocket too badly. Slides in and out great. It's nice and smooth. But this nice milled pocket clip does put enough tension on there that I'm not worried about it flying out of my pocket or anything. Really, really good carry. It's really nice. 5 ounces isn't light, but I find it to be fine. Action? Yeah, it's really good. This came out before the Minotaur. I had the Minotaur before. I would put the WE Minotaur as probably my favorite WE action. Probably one of my favorite actions of knives that I own. But this is like 5% of that. And this has a better detent. The detent on this is better than it is on the Minotaur. The detent on this is just perfect. Just perfect. It's really exactly what I want. And as you can see, it falls shut very well. You know what? I'm going to change my mind because I wish the detent on this was like 5% better. I'm going to say this is my favorite action now of any WE that I've handled. That was a short reign the Minotaur had. I don't know what order these videos are going to come out, but I think I recorded that Minotaur video about 4 or 5 days ago. Short reign. The Minotaur is still great, but this is just a little bit better. It has 98% of the smoothness of the Minotaur with a better detent. So, can't go wrong there. Really love the action on this thing. Absolutely nothing to complain about. Overall, I really love a lot of things about this knife. This is not the color I would have chosen. I would have gotten the gray or the bronze, but and the design is a bit love it or hate it, but it seems to be pretty well received. So many details on it are done really, really, really well. There are a couple I wish were different. I wish, as I said, that this carbon was more flush. But there's a lot of compound curves going around in here, so I can't really blame them too much. I can see how that would be rather difficult to get that. I like the look of the floating backspacer. It's just, there are a lot of things to really, really like about this knife, except maybe the price. I feel that materials and quality-wise, it's probably worth it, but it's definitely the high end of what it's worth. I would not call this knife a bargain by any stretch of the imagination. I think it's fairly priced, but I don't think it's a bargain. But yeah, no star screws. Now WE has gone from having the worst screws in the industry to the best. These new titanium screws they make themselves are fantastic. Yeah, this is a really, really cool knife. I really do like it. Not something I would probably buy after having it in my hand, just aesthetically. But if you like the look of this thing, it's a very useful piece of art. It definitely, absolutely is. But it's more than an art knife. It's actually really super useful. It's a full production model. You ain't got to worry about it being limited edition and hurting the value of it or anything like that. They've been making it for a little bit now. They will continue to. They have 2 new knives coming out that are kind of in this similar design language, but with more normal looking blades. The Wisp and the Vapor, I believe. I'm excited to try those. Very cool knife from WE. WE is really doing very well lately. They're very much impressing me, and you're going to see a lot of stuff here from them just because they're kind of... I'm not going to say they're my favorite manufacturer yet because I'm still butthurt about the star screws, but they're moving up every time I touch one, and this one is very, very good. I very much like it. Hope you guys have enjoyed this review. I've been Bryan. Have a good one.